Well, let's look at some of the matters arising from this trial with Major John Spencer. He's chair of Urban Warfare Studies with the Madison Policy Forum. He's also author of Connected Soldiers, Life, Leadership and Social Connections in Modern War. He joins us from Colorado Springs in the United States. Welcome to DW. So we have a 21-year-old Russian sergeant who's admitted shooting an unarmed 62-year-old man on a bike. This was to stop him reporting the presence of Russian soldiers. We know that war is a terrible business that necessarily involves killing people. So as someone who's seen active service, for troops on the ground, how are soldiers trained to draw the line between what's necessary and what's allowed?
Yeah, it really starts on day one. When we accept people into the military, we immediately start with imposing what we call ethics, a standard of the profession. And that includes the law of armed conflict, the law of war, which distinguishes between a combatant and a non-combatant, an enemy and a civilian. We start that from day one. We also have very strong what we call group norms. So this is what a professional military does. Doesn't matter if the person's been there for 1 day or for 10 years. The group in itself is self-regulating. It's part of being a profession is that you adhere to an ethical code, to the law of war, and then you self-regulate. So the fact that he was, any soldier, and so some soldiers do bad things. If they're not immediately corrected by the group, then it establishes a new standard and you basically descend into a mad horde killing whatever you want.
So, again, because none of us have actually been there, we're talking in the abstract. So something bad happens, you would expect in a well-regulated army for the people around him, for commanding officers, to look at what's just happened and take some sort of action.
Yeah, immediately. Or it's like a poison to the just war, to the just actions of your unit. I mean, it even means something morally if you allow that to go on and what the injury it causes to your other soldier. So as a commander in war, you would immediately stop that soldier, take his weapon, and then you would seek justice, as in an investigation, a trial. In the military, that's part of the glue is the military justice system to identify that and then show all the other soldiers that it's not acceptable.
OK, so that's in a well-regulated army. But from your own experience and from what you know of this war and the way that Russia treats and trains its conscript army, are you able to paint us a picture of the sort of pressures on young conscripts in a conflict like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think I could. I mean, conscript isn't a bad thing. Mandatory service is used by other militaries, and it doesn't descend into violent war crimes, genocide, things like that. In the situation of a young person in combat, he looks to the leaders around him or the people that have been there longer, right? The senior soldiers. In the Russian system, they don't have a senior enlisted corps. They have officers and they have warrant officers, but they have soldiers who've been around for a long time. That soldier becomes accountable to his group, and that's how you regulate it. But this is not what we've seen in the Russian military. They have no ethical code. The massacres that we have seen are either condoned or ordered. So this is, and I think this is an important moment even for the Ukrainians to show the world that they are a professional government, a professional force where there are rights. And that soldier it isn't vengeance, it's justice.
Russia, of course, is considering its own trials of Ukrainian soldiers. Here's the Russian lawmaker and chair of the country's Parliament's Committee on International Affairs, Leonid Slutsky.
If we exchange a sufficiently large number of prisoners of war from the Ukrainian side for these non-humans in human form and show the whole world that they are worthy only of capital punishment, they do not deserve to live after those monstrous crimes committed against humanity and which are being committed continuously against our prisoners of war.
I wonder, John Spencer, do you see any equivalence, moral or legally, between the trials starting in Kyiv and those being called for in Moscow?
No, I don't. I mean, it actually makes me sick, physically sick, listening to that person. I thought he was talking about the Russian soldiers' actions in places like Bucha. where you would, as a nation, call your soldiers in for justice against your soldiers. There's no documented investigation showing that the Mariupol defenders targeted civilians, bombed theaters with children written on the outside of it. It just makes me sick. It's a complete, really thumb at the nose at the entire world that this war is not a just war for them. He should be calling for his own Russian soldiers to be investigated and tried for the internationally documented war crimes that are happening every day. There's no evidence of the defenders of Mariupol doing war crimes.
So we have a Ukrainian prosecutor general who says her office is preparing war crimes cases against 41 Russian soldiers for offences including bombing civilian infrastructure, killing civilians, rape and looting. So we can perhaps understand in its broadest terms why an invading force might find it useful to destroy buildings, even civilian ones. I suppose it's the personal outrages that so many of us find so difficult to contemplate. Do you have any insights to share as someone who's been in conflict about what turns some men in war into rapists and murderers?
No, actually, I don't. That's a special kind of evil. I mean, I've seen bad soldiers, and those soldiers are identified and then rapidly secluded, not given the autonomy to operate weapons and fight in war. So I can't get you in the mindset of a rapist or what we've seen in the Russian soldiers doing at mass, not just individuals, although the investigations will be extreme jurisprudence, as in investigations, videos, evidence collecting. But to get you in the mind, there's no excuse, just so you're clear, for what has been done by Russian soldiers to civilians, tying their hands behind their back and shooting them in the back of the head. Right, I agree with you that in war, civilian buildings and things like that will be destroyed, such as like an enemy is using it as a headquarters. But if you follow the laws of armed conflict, you do everything you can to ensure the minimum amount of collateral damage possible to civilian people and to their infrastructure. That's not what's happened in Russia across the entire country of Ukraine. But they're going through with extreme diligence in investigating everyone.
Good talking. That's very interesting. Thank you so much for joining us. John Spencer from the Madison Policy Forum.
Thank you.